Welcome to We Need to Talk about tech, where we talk about the past,
present, and future
of technology.
On this week's podcast, we're talking about the Tesla Model S and Model X redesigns.
We're talking about the battle between Apple and Facebook.
And Jeff Bezos stepping down as the CEO of Amazon.
Okay. Last week, Tesla announced that they will be redesigning their Model S's, or I guess they've already redesigned their Model S and Model X, and they kind of revealed the new designs to the world. I guess production for these new redesigned cars is starting in the first quarter of 2021, and they apparently will also be shipping to the customers as soon as March. Now, we're recording this in February. Tesla has a history of delivering late on promises. I'm not too optimistic it's going to come in March, but I mean, we'll see when they actually start getting delivered. What do you think of these new redesigns, and do you think that they're going to actually be delivering these to customers in March, or are you kind of expecting a more Tesla-esque timeline?
So yeah, first of all, I think the redesigns were probably, I think this is like the second major redesign of the Model S that they've had, and I think it's about time. You know, they needed to bring it up into kind of modern standards. I think the Model S, for a lot of people, felt a little bit cheaper than the Model 3, just from the design of the interior specifically. But yeah, this redesign kind of redid both the interior and the exterior. The one thing I would say is that I think overall the redesign is great. I think we've been, you know, a little bit tough on Tesla in terms of how they manufacture their cars and stuff like that. But overall, I think what they've done with these redesigns kind of simplified. It looks like it's going to simplify their manufacturing a little bit. And I like most of them. There are a few things that I think are a little bit annoying and kind of a deal breaker for me if I was personally in the market for these. But I think it's a good job. The Model X and Model S are very expensive cars. They're the two flagship vehicles of Tesla, and they needed to be a little bit more upscale to kind of compete with, you know, the BMWs and the Mercedes and the other types of luxury brands that are going to be in their price bracket. And I think this brings them a little bit step closer to that. So some of the main changes that they have made is a little bit of a redesign on the exterior in terms of how the grille looks, and a little bit more lines along the side, so it's less roundish as the old vehicles. The old vehicles were very round and kind of stumpy, and they did that to be aerodynamic. Now there's a little bit more cuts, a little bit more aggressive styling in the car, which looks nice. And then on the inside, they've completely redone the interior. New materials, less, you know, open spaces where there was just a gaping hole with little bits of plastic around. They've kind of classed it up a bit, and they've changed the screen from being landscape to portrait, which brings it in line with from portrait to landscape, which brings it in line with the Model 3. So that's kind of like what they're doing to, I think, make things a little bit simpler all the way through. But yeah, I think this is a cool, and it's about time that they actually did this redesign. But you know, I think it's okay. How about you? What do you think? I want to say I'm really not a fan of the steering wheel, but I'm kind of curious. What do you think about the redesign, and especially that steering wheel?
Yeah, I was going to ask you about the steering wheel if you didn't mention it. So for anyone who hasn't seen the steering wheel, if you think of a traditional wheel, right, it's a circle. What they've done is it's, I guess, what's being called a yoke style steering wheel. So it's supposed to, I guess, emulate more of what a fighter jet would have, I guess. Or not even a fighter jet, I don't know, just like a plane, just a regular plane.
Yeah.
So you've pretty much chopped off the top. There's nothing to hold onto on the top, and it's just the bottom half of a wheel. But even then, it's not a wheel. It's like a rectangle on the bottom of it. So it's very different. It's very jarring when you look at it.
Yeah.
People are even making fun of how it looks, because instead of any switches on the side, like maybe to turn on your windshield wipers or maybe to turn on your left and turn signals. There's now buttons on the steering wheel to do all of that. And they have 2 dots on either side of the horn. Everyone's saying it looks like an elephant or it looks like some sort of, koala bear or marsupial. So they're making fun of their steering wheel. Mm-hmm. I could see how they're going for more of a sporty vibe, and I think this is supposed to be what the steering wheel on the new Roadster is gonna look like too. So if it does end up being the same steering wheel, I could see how they're going with that for their higher class vehicles, their sportier vehicles. But right now it looks weird. I do like the new redesigned interior. It makes a lot more sense. Like you said, there's not really big gaps where things are missing, and they've added a charging mat. A charging mat for 2 phones right in the center console, which makes it very convenient. The new landscape touchscreen makes it a lot more convenient too, and like you said, it kind of brings it in line with the Model 3 and the Model Y. I also like that they did keep the dashboard, because I was when I heard redesign, I was like, please don't tell me they got rid of the dashboard behind the steering wheel, but I'm glad they decided to keep that. I don't know. The interior looks nice. Hopefully, like you said, we've kind of made fun of Tesla for quite some time about their whole issues when it comes to manufacturing cars and the quality of their interiors. Hopefully, once it gets delivered to people, it looks as nice as it does in these pictures. Mm-hmm. Hopefully, the materials seem as nice as they do in these pictures. But really, only time will tell. Now, you did mention some of the exterior redesigns, exterior modifications. One thing that I think is nice, if they've kind of simplified their lineup. For the Model S, at least, it was P90, P100, P100D, P100D ludicrous mode. Now it's just, you can get the long range, the Plaid, and the Plaid Plus. Now, one thing they've done also is with these new, drivetrains that they've added for these models, the long range Model S is supposed to have, I believe, a 412 mile range. Yeah. Which is pretty far. The Plaid, which is their sportier version, is supposed to have a range of 390 miles, so a little bit less, but it has 1,020 horsepower. It's supposed to be able to reach a top speed of 200 miles per hour, depending on if you have the right tires, as Elon says. Now, their top of the line version is a Plaid Plus. This won't be coming out till the end of 2021. It's going to have 1,100 horsepower with a range of 520 miles, and it's supposed to go from 0 to 60 miles per hour, or 0 to 100 kilometers an hour, in less than 2 seconds. Which is, those are insane stats. I know you don't care as much about, the statistics that the companies come up with, but this is on pace to be the fast, and I think they've even said, I think Tesla's even claimed, this is going to be the new fastest mass production vehicle that people can buy. Yeah. Right? It's not some supercar where, there's only 1,000 of these made for the entire world. No, there are going to be a large amount of these just driving around. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's such an important thing to bring up, because Tesla, with this redesign, first of all, the range is insane. We were just talking about, electric cars and how they were starting to kind of mature, and all these companies were starting to make really good electric cars. And, in the past, electric cars could not match the range of Tesla. Then they slowly started to do it. And then Tesla comes out with these numbers that are so astronomically higher than any of the competition, that it's like, the moment they were able to catch up, Tesla was just, put their foot on the gas, so to speak, and kind of went forward even farther. And then in terms of the speed, these are the stats that they were talking about the Roadster was supposed to have. And, under 2 seconds to 0 to 60, they're talking about the fastest quarter mile,
of any production car, and a car that's going to cost a lot less than a lot of the fastest cars in the world, like the Lamborghinis and the Ferraris and all that. It's not going to be, cost the same amount as a Bugatti Chiron. It's going to be probably a tenth of the cost. And yeah, it's very impressive that they were able to do this. And I think it's important to talk about the good things that Tesla is doing. But at the same time, I do think there's also a lot of things that they're doing that just makes me scratch my head. And the sad part is Tesla has a huge fan base. And having a fan base is great. It, makes your company very popular. Obviously, they're doing very well in terms of a publicly traded company. There's a lot of optimism around them. But I think the problem with a company that is so immensely popular is that they can do things that aren't necessarily good, but people will like it anyways, or say they like it or pretend they like it. And there's a few things with this car that we mentioned that I think just don't make much sense. So, like we mentioned, the steering wheel. Yeah, the steering wheel looks really sporty, and it looks like it could be a plane, and it's very fast, and it kind of fits in with that kind of narrative. But it's not practical. And on a roadster, I can be fine with it, because that's a two-door car that's probably going to be driven for the fun of driving. It's not going to be, you're not going to be driving your kids to school in that every day. I mean, you probably could, but it's not what it's designed for. The Model S and the Model X are the two most practical vehicles that Tesla offers, along with the Model Y. These are the cars or the vehicles with the most interior space. They're what you're going to be using for road trips and stuff like that. So just having the ergonomics of a proper steering wheel, or even a flat bottom steering wheel if you wanted it to be more sporty, would make so much more sense than this yoke. Because I could just imagine trying to do a 3-point turn with this steering wheel. I would imagine it would be very, very annoying. And on top of that, the idea that the car doesn't have a gear selector blows my mind. I don't know. It's funny. Car manufacturers have been messing with the gear selector for years, and it was something that was never broken. I don't know who decided it needed to be fixed, but someone did. And now Tesla's gone to the extreme of just getting rid of it altogether. So apparently the car is going to predict whether you need to be in drive or reverse or park, which to me doesn't make any sense, but who knows? Maybe their cars are just so smart that they can be great with that. But yeah, like I definitely like the specs. I definitely think the cars are doing a little bit of weird stuff. But do you feel the same way? Like, do you think we can be in a world where we don't need a gear selector in a car, or we don't need really accurate steering because a lot of this stuff is going to be automated? Or would you want to see a little bit more of those legacy features, like a proper gear selector in a car?
Yeah, I had heard something about the predicting which gear you need to be in before. Mm-hmm. It's obviously a very foreign concept to me. I mean, I drive a manual car, so I am very much selecting my gears. The idea that the car is going to be deciding when you want to revert, like, I don't get how it's going to do that. Like, is it going to wait, okay, once you look over your shoulder, then it's going to decide to switch into reverse? But even then, most cars now have a backup camera, so you're not even going to need to look at your shoulder. Yeah. Like, let's say if you're stopped at a light for too long, is it going to put you into park, or is it... I have so many questions to ask when it comes to just the gear selection, and I'm sure at some point, whenever they launch, it's going to be a great idea, and then a whole bunch of people are going to complain, and there's going to be accidents. There's going to be something that comes because of it, and there's going to be a very quick over-the-air update that, oh, hey, we've put a gear selector feature right to the, on the left side of the display console, so you can easily change which gear you need to be in. I could 100% see that happening. And the steering wheel, yeah, you made a good point. These are sort of like the main family cars, especially if you compare it to the Roadster, right? It's a two-door. You're meant to drive it fast within limit. It's a show, right? It's, look how crazy this car's design is. look how crazy fast it can go, look how crazy the steering wheel is. But if you're driving your kids to soccer practice, or you're picking your kids up from school, or you're just going to the groceries, you don't need a crazy steering wheel. You just need a steering wheel that's going to work well. And yeah, I'm assuming they've done focus groups on, what's the most important of the steering wheel. I'm sure they probably thought, what if we chop off the bottom of the steering wheel instead of the top? And then for whatever reason, it really didn't work when you chop off the bottom. So like, okay, no, we'll just chop off the top then, and everyone should be okay with that. Maybe they do see an autonomous driving future, or at least maybe so many Tesla drivers use the auto driving functions first and foremost that they don't even need a full steering wheel in the first place. Who knows what led to this decision? It's going to be interesting to see once it's actually implemented. But just to kind of talk about the specs and about the range, right? A few episodes ago, we kind of talked about the fast charging batteries, right? How before the thing was, okay, you can't get this kind of range from an electric car. And then Tesla proved that wrong. And then it was, well, electric cars aren't exciting and fast, and Tesla proved that wrong. Then it was, okay, well, it takes long to charge your battery. And then the store.company that we had mentioned in a couple episodes before, well, now you can charge a battery fully in 5 minutes. So it seems like all the kind of preconceived notions that people have typically had about electric cars and electric vehicles are just being knocked down one by one. And with Tesla and this car, it's kind of like, well, now the fastest production car is an electric car, right? It's not a diesel car. It's not a gasoline car. It's an electric car. And then when you talk about the range, right, they're getting 512 miles is a very long distance. That's a lot of range.
Yeah.
We're getting to the point where regular diesel or gasoline powered vehicles aren't even going to be able to keep up with the range of electric cars anymore.
Yeah.
And now everything's going to be, we're going to get to a point, could be 5 years, could be 10 years, where everyone's going to say, oh, you drive a gasoline car. Like, you can't even go fast in gasoline cars.
Yeah.
Or, like, you can't even drive that far. What do you mean you can't drive across the country on one charge? What is this archaic technology that you're using? And then it's going to be, when we come to charging stations, right? At some point, your relatives are going to have a charging station at their home. It's going to be, what do you mean you can't fuel up your battery or your gas tank at grandma's house? Why would you even have a gas-powered car if there's specific stations that you have to go to? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
What if you're driving somewhere and they don't have a gas station on your route? Do you just wait until the next gas station? And well, right now, yeah, that's what we do. You're in Ontario, you're driving, you're waiting for those en routes to pick up so that you could fill up your gas tank. But we are at the start of a change, I would say. A change where more and more electric vehicles are going to become popular, are just going to make sense, right?
Yeah.
We're getting to electric vehicles are just as fast, if not faster. They have just as good range, if not longer range. They can charge just as fast. And then the next thing to go is going to be they cost just as much, or they cost less. Yeah. Right? Once we get to the point where the cost is on par and it's you're driving further, you're driving faster, there are less accidents, it's not going to be that hard of a decision for the majority of people to choose an electric car soon. Yeah. Could be 5 years, could be 10 years, but we're getting closer and closer to that point.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think it's probably sooner rather than later. Like I think we mentioned before, I wouldn't be surprised if in the next few years we're hearing reports of, electric manufacturers or electric cars are selling, new cars are selling more than new gasoline power cars. And I think we've seen this with CES and General Motors. We're seeing it a little bit with Ford. I think these companies are starting to realize just how important electric is for the future of their companies, because they know that the generations that are going to be buying cars in the very near future are probably going to be looking almost exclusively at electric, and they need to get their stuff up to par if they're going to compete with a company like Tesla. And it could be the point where, you know, Fast and the Furious 14 has all electric powered cars zooming down the road. So yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, when Dominic Toretto is driving an all electric SS, yeah, we've reached a turning point. Anything else on the topic?
No. I think the cars are cool. Once again, hopefully Tesla can work out their quirks and bring something a little bit more practical. But other than that, I think what they've done here is really important, and it's good that they're actually always moving the electric car market forward instead of just resting on their laurels, which is really cool.
I have one thing to add. I forgot. So I think it may just be the Model X, but I know the Model X for sure has a screen in the back seat for the backseat passengers. It has a tiny screen so you could, I guess, watch videos on, possibly play some games on. I read a report that said both the Model S and the Model X have a chip that's capable of 10 teraflop processing power. And apparently they can play Cyberpunk 2077 on these chips. I do not for a second believe that. You can barely run Cyberpunk 2077 on like current generation PCs. You can't even run that on a, well, I mean, you can now on a PS4, but I would like to see someone try and play Cyberpunk on a Model S, and I would definitely like to see that happen.
Yeah, I saw that too. They were saying that it's the equivalent of a gaming PC in the car. About 10 teraflops, which is almost as powerful as a PlayStation 5. And, you know, even on their press screenshots, they have The Witcher 3 there as like a playable game, apparently on their car, which is the same makers who made Cyberpunk. So yeah, it would be a little far-fetched to see it. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it runs, but how well it runs be another question.
Yeah, you may need like a jump start for your car after you turn it on. Okay, on to our next topic, Apple versus Facebook. Hey, thanks for watching the video. If you like weekly tech updates, you can check us out on Spotify, Anchor, Apple Music, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can find us under We Need to Talk About Tech. I'll post links down below on where you can find us. I'll post updates on when we release episodes on my Twitter. You can also check that out down below. Also, please like and subscribe. It really helps out a ton. We're almost at 40 subscribers. Until next time, take it easy. Peace.